All right, so the difference here is that in the past, the coefficient here was 1. Then it make things a lot easier for you. But it's not 1 anymore. It's something other than 1. So that's where we started using trial and error, using the reverse FOIL, that kind of idea. But remember, the first thing you should always look for, when factoring, I'm sorry?
GCF.
Oh, yeah, okay. I thought you were saying something else. The GCF. Look for the GCF. All right, so if you look at these three terms, what's the GCF? 1. All right, so since the GCF is 1, there's nothing I can factor out. So I'm going to go, since it's a trinomial, I'm going to go directly to what idea next? 2 binomials. Good. So you can do the 2 binomials. All right, now the way I would approach that is the idea of FOIL. In your mind, you all know how to deal with FOIL. So that first term, that f here, means that when you multiply the first terms of each binomial, that's going to give you what part of the trinomial? The first term. So you want to look at the factors. What two factors multiplied together is 2x squared? There's only one possibility. 2x and x, and that's because 2 is prime. And so does it matter whether I put 2x here or 2x here? Does not matter. All right, now, so that takes care of f. Okay? Now I would go next to the L, Remember, L here means you look at the last terms of each binomial. And if I were to multiply these last terms, it better give me which part of this trinomial? The last term. Now the last term is a negative 81. And so if I come back and I think about foiling this out, in order to get this to be a negative, then the signs in here have to be same or different? Different. All right. Trial and error. Put something in there. At some point, you'll be able to kind of very easily determine which one needs to be positive, which one needs to be negative. Sometimes you won't, depending on the numbers involved. So let's say I'm going to put a plus or minus. Okay? Put something. You're going to check. If it doesn't work, you try something else. Now, I need an 81. What are the factors? Let's think about the factors of 81. Factors of 81. Obviously, 1 times 81 is 81. We're not going to use that because there's no way I can get that out in the inner to be a negative 9x. What are the other factors of 81? 9 and 9? 9 and 9? What else? 3 and 27? Anything else? That looks like it's about it, right? Okay. So, what do you want to try? Of those 3 sets of factors, what do you want to try first?
9 and 9.
I would try 9 and 9 first. Now, since 9 and 9 are the same numbers, it really doesn't matter where you put each one because the last terms are opposites. They're the same in terms of using 9 and 9. Now, before you go on, you got to check this. Because what part of FOIL have I not checked? The outer and the inner. And the outer and inner better give me which part of this trinomial that I haven't checked yet. The middle. Negative 9x. All right, well, let's check. What's the outer?
2x and 9. Negative 9.
Negative 18x. What's the inner? Come on, you better know how to FOIL that you had that last semester. 9x. And when you add them up, what do you get?
Negative 9.
Is that what you wanted?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's correct. What I have is correct. Now, again, could someone else had said x minus 9 times 2x plus 9?
Yes.
Yeah, because the order in which you multiply does not matter. All right, number 2. All right, suppose in number 2 you had this. You had 5p squared minus 52p plus 20. Okay, 5p squared minus 52p plus 20. All right. right, so you want to factor this, which should you always do first? GCF, which is 1. Now, if for some reason you don't factor out the GCF as your first thing that you do, it's fine. At the end, you got to look at the factors and see if there is a GCF of each one, and if this has a GCF, then those will have a GCF. But it's always best to factor it out first, the GCF. All right, so it's 1, so I'm going to go directly to the two binomials. Now, the good thing here, remember FOIL, same thing. Good thing here is that my first term, the coefficient, is what kind of number? Prime. So there's only one possibility for F. What is it? 5P and P. All right, so there's only one possibility. All right, now, so that takes care of F. So I know that so far, now in your mind, keep in mind that 5P and P may not work in some problems. Now here, that's the only possibility, right? So it has to be 5P and P. What I'm saying, though, is that even though I have it checked off, if this was, let's say, 6P squared, you could have used 3P and 2P, or you could use what? 6 and 1. So if you tried 3P and 2P, I would have checked this off and said, all right, this works so far, but it may not be the one you need. So even though you have this checked off, that may not still be the one you need. Okay? All right, now let's go to the last. What's my last term?
20.
What kind of 20? Positive. All right, now what that means, and you got to remember, we talked about signs last time. What that means is that when I look at these two factors here, and I multiply them together, I need to get a positive 20. The only way that you can get a positive number is if these signs are the same. Now, are they going to both be positive?
Negative.
No, they have to be negative because my middle sign is what? Negative. All right, so they have to be that. All right, now let's talk about 20. Let's think about the factors of 20. 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5, 5 and 4, and that's about it, right? Is that correct? Yeah. All right, which one do you want to try? You want to try 4 and 5? All right, let's talk about that now. Let's try 4 and 5. Some of you would try 4 and 5. Nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to put the 5 here and the 4 here, okay? Now, what I'm about to talk about is important. All right, even before you go and you check, because so far you agree that my F is fine because 5P times P is 5P squared, and my L is okay because a negative 5 times a negative 4 is a positive 20. But the only thing I haven't checked at that point is what? On the inner. But even before I do that, I know that I don't even have to check this. Something is wrong here. Look at this factor right here. What's the GCF of this factor? 5. Which meant that the GCF should have been what? 5. But is it? No. So that tells you right away, you cannot have a 5 here. Because that would mean you could take out a 5, which meant that the whole thing you could have taken out a 5. So right away you know that this cannot be it. Okay? All right, so let's go back into the drawing board now. So I'm going to still use 5P and P because that's the only possibility. Now you may say, well, let's change the 4 and the 5. Okay, you can do that, right? You can switch them. Put 4 here and 5 here. All right, nothing wrong with that. Now let's do the outer and the inner, though. What's the outer? Negative 25P, right? I said the inner, the outer. I'm sorry. I said the outer? Okay. So the outer is negative 25P. What's the inner? What do we add them up? Is that what you wanted?
No.
Nope. All right. So that implies that 4 and 5 are not what you're going to use. So of the other two possibilities, which one do you want to try next? 2 and 10. All right, now let's think. Okay, think strategically here. And even if you don't think like that, that's fine. You're always going to check your work at the end anyway. But it helps if you do think like this. So I know that both of those are negative, right? Okay, now I'm going to ask you this. Should I put the 10 here? No. Very good. Why not? Because if I put the 10 here, that means I could take out a what? A 5, which meant that this GCF was a 5. So right away, you know I cannot put the 10 here. So where should I put the 10? In the second binomial. Very good. And then this should be what? 2. Okay? You have to think like that. That helps you. The more knowledge you have, the better you are through these courses. Now, am I done? No. What? Because you have to check the rest of this. You have to do the out and the inner. What's the outer? Negative 50p. What's the inner?
2p.
Is that what you wanted?
Yes.
Yep, that's what I wanted. So this right here is my answer. So 5p minus 2 times p minus 10. Okay? So remember, I've done all this now. I did F, I did L, now I did the out and the inner. All right, number 3. All right, let's suppose in number 3, you had this. You had 6r squared plus 37r plus 45. Now this is a little bit more involved because 6 is not prime and 45 is not prime, so you have a little bit more possibilities to deal with. What's the GCF? GCF is 3. If you say the GCF is 3, then you're indicating that 3 times some whole number is 37. It's not. 37 is not divisible by 3. What's the GCF? 1. GCF is 1. So let's go to 2 binomials. All right, now remember in the previous problem, the f was the coefficient of x squared was prime. Here it's not. 6 is not prime. So let's think about the possibilities for 6. 6, 1, 3, 2. What do you want to try first? 3, 2, okay. So let's put 3r, 2r. All right, so you got it. So that's my f. So I did f first. F-O-I-L. So far I put a check mark there only to imply that 3r times 2r is what?
6.
Okay, 6r squared. But it may not be the one I need. It may be the 6r and the 1r I may need. All right. Now where do I go next in this process? L. Okay, so I need to go to L. So what 2 factors multiplied together is a positive 45. Now before I go on, the last sign's positive. That means that these signs in here have to be the same, and they're both going to be positive because my middle sign's positive. All right, let's think about the factors of 45. So in your mind, you're thinking 145, right? But let's obviously we're not going to use 145 here. Let's try 3 and what? 15. 5 and 9. And that's about it, right? Okay. What do you want to try?
3. No, 5 and 9.
Okay. Okay. So now let's look at 3 and 15. All right. Now you shook your head. Why'd you shake your head? You did this. I think you did this.
Well, I nodded at first, but then I realized that if you do the 3 and 15, there would still be a way to factor.
Awesome. Awesome. Look at the 3. If I put the 3 here, I know that cannot be it because I can factor out a what? A 3. If I put the 15 here, I know it cannot work because I can factor out the 3. So obviously 3 and 15 won't work.
5 and 9.
5 and 9. And would I put the 9 here?
No.
No. Because you put the 9 here, that means I can factor out
I
a
got
3,
the 3.
which meant that the GCF was 3, and it's not. So I need to put a what here?
5.
5 and the
9.
9 here. You got to think like that. All right, let's do the outer and the inner. What's the outer?
27.
What's the inner? And what do you get? 37R. So that's your answer. Okay? All right, number 4. All right, number 4, let's suppose we had 6x squared minus 20x plus 14. 6x squared minus 20x plus 14. Okay? All right. Now, what should you do first? GCF. What's your GCF? 2. All right. Now, it is possible you could have not done the GCF first and still got the right answer in the end. But it's always helpful if you do the GCF first, because what happens is this: if you factor out the 2, your trinomial becomes easier to factor. So what do I get for this trinomial right here? 3x squared minus 10x plus 7. So now remember, you're not done, because you got to take this trinomial right here and see if you can factor that further. All right, so the GCF of this is 1 now. So let's go to 2 binomials. And the good thing about this one in this case is that the 3 and the 7 are both prime. So there's only one possibility for each one. So for Fyl, what's the only possibility for 3x squared? 3x and x. Now the last sign's positive. These signs have to be the same, and they're both negative. Good. And for L, what's the only possibility to get a product of 7? 1 and 7. All right, now that's where you can say, I'm going to put the 1 here, the 7 there. That's fine. You can do that. So I'm gonna put the 7 here, the 1 there. Okay. Now be careful. Don't say the answer is this. I'm gonna leave some space here. Don't say the answer is 2 times 3x minus 1 times x minus 7, because it's not. Someone that does that, what are they failing to do? Check the outer and the inner. What is the outer? What's the inner? Which gives me negative 22x, which is not what I wanted. So what does that imply about the 1 and the 7 possibly? Interchange them. Switch them. So let's say 3x minus 7 times x minus 1. All right, let's check it. What's the outer this time? Negative 3x. What's the inner? What do I get? Which is what you wanted. Now, here's a mistake people make. So what I have is correct, but here's a mistake people make. They say this, that the answer is, here's a blank. They'll say the answer is 3x minus 7 times x minus 1.
Forgetting about the 2.
Yeah, remember, you're trying to factor this, right? If you multiply this out, that's this. What am I missing? The GCF, which is 2. So you got to bring that down. So there's your answer. Okay. Now, what I was saying earlier was, remember, it make things a lot easier if you factor out the GCF in this case. Because when I factor out the GCF and I looked at this trinomial, it was easy to factor this trinomial because 3 and 7 were prime. But let's suppose, let's go back to that same problem. And let's suppose that you did not factor out the GCF. Okay, no big deal. You got to make sure at the end you do. So you went directly to the 2 binomials. Okay? All right, now let's talk about FYL. Give me 2 factors whose product is 6x squared. 3x and 2x. All right, so let's say 3x, 2x. Okay? All right, let's go to the L now. Give me, now remember the last sign's positive, so these signs have to be the same, and they're both negative. Now give me 2 factors whose product is 14. 2 and 7, 14, 1. What do you want to try? What do you want to try? Huh?
Wait, factors of
Factors of 14. Factors of 14.
2 and 7.
2, 7, 14, 1, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to try?
2 and 7.
2, 7? Okay. So let's put the 7 here, the 2 there. Okay? All right. Oh, no, be careful. I'm glad you're bringing it up. She says, oh, no, because you could take out a what? A factor 2, which means that the original has the GCF of what? 2, and does it? Yes. So am I okay so far? Yes, I'm okay so far. Because remember, the original has a GCF. You didn't, if you forget about the GCF, you now realize that the original did have a GCF other than 1. What is it? 2, and this tells you it's 2. But here's a mistake people make. So they'll forget about finding the GCF, and then they'll factor like this. Now, did I factor it? Let me rephrase it. Did I partially factor it correctly? Yeah, because what's the outer? Negative 6x. What's the inner?
14.
Negative 14x, I'm sorry. And what do I get when I add them up? Negative 20x. And you're going to say, all right, my outer and inner work, so there's my answer. You're going to say that's the answer. But it's not. Because when you factor, you want to make sure that all of your factors have a GCF of 1. What's this GCF that I'm pointing to? 1. What's the GCF? 2. So you got to factor out the 2. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite these two again. So I'm going to do this now. I'm just going to rewrite it over because I need the room. So right here, you're going to say 2 times what? X minus 1. And now notice I have 3 factors. 3x minus 7 is the first one. 2 is the next one. And what's the other one? X minus 1. But we tend to put the monomial factor first. So the best way to write is to put what first? 2. And then 3x minus 7 times x minus 1. All right. So if you forget to do the GCF first, it's no big deal. You just fix it at the end. Okay? All right, number 5. Okay, number 5, let's suppose we had this. We had 6x cubed plus 21x squared minus 90x. So 6x cubed plus 21x squared minus 90x. All right. Now, you remember a while ago in that previous problem, we did it another way where we didn't do the GCF? Here you have to. Because the last term is not just 90, it's just 90x. So if you go directly to the two binomials, you're going to have some issues. You're going to find out right away, oh God, I don't know what to do. So what should you do first? GCF. What's the GCF? 3x. So you factor out the 3x, and I get what trinomial? 3x times 2x squared, good. What else? Plus 7x, what else? Minus 30, good. All right, so that's where I'm at. All right, so then some of you are going to say, I'm done. Well, no, you're not going to get, you may get out of 10, you may get 2 points for doing the GCF. You're not done. What have you forgotten to do? Factor the trinomial. All right, so let's go off to the side, rewrite this over. And now, remember, when you do the GCF of the original, and you look at this trinomial, the GCF of this trinomial should now be what? 1, good. So let's go directly to the two binomials. All right. FYL. There's only one possibility for 2x squared. What is it? 2x and x. All right, let's talk about the last term. It's negative, so I know that the signs are different. does not matter. Let's put one positive, one negative, and we'll go from there. So let's go plus minus. All right, let's talk about 30. What are the factors of 30? 6, 5. Let me just write it down. Factors of 30. 3, 10, 6, 5, 130, yeah. 2 and 15. That's about it, right? All right, what do you want to try? 3 and 10? Okay, let's try 3 and 10. I'm going to ask you this.
10 goes in the first.
Are you gonna put 10 in the first one? No. Because if you put 10 here, that means the GCF of this right here is 2, which meant the GCF of this is what? 2, and it's not. So you're gonna put 10 where? Yep, and you can put the 3 here. All right, now so far my F and L are okay, because what's 2x times x? And what's a positive 3 times a negative 10? Negative 30. But what haven't I checked first? For the inner. For the middle term. So let's do the outer. What's the outer?
20.
Negative 20x, okay. What's the inner?
3x.
When I add them up, what do I get?
Negative 23x. No, 17x. You're right.
Yeah, but that's not what I wanted.
No.
And then I know switching's not going to work. So that means that 3 and 10 is not the one I'm going to use. So what do you want to try next? Pick something. 6 and 5, okay. Let's try 6 and 5. So let me go and rewrite this over. All right, so 2xx. Now I'm trying 6 and 5, right? So you know 6 will not go, and it was plus and a minus. And you know 6 will not go where? In the first one. Because if you put a 6 here, that means you can factor out a 2. And this GCF is not 2. The GCF here is 1. So I'm going to put the 6 where? And the 5 here, right? Okay, now let's do the out and the inner. What's the outer this time? Negative 12x. What's the inner? Not 3x. 5x. 5x. What's 5x in a negative 12x? Negative 7x. Is that what I wanted? No. But what I wanted was its opposite, which means now that the signs just need to be changed. All right. So the signs are going to be changed. So this is going to be 2x minus 5 times x plus 6. Again, check. Foil. You all know how to foil. 2x times x, 2x squared. Negative 5 times positive 6, negative 30. What's the outer this time? What's the inner? What do I get? 7x, which is what I wanted. So when I go and I write the answer, what's my factorization? Right, don't forget the 3x, the GCF, and then the two binomials. So 2x minus 5 times x plus 6. All right, number 6. All right, number 6, let's suppose you had 6x cubed y, that's a y, minus 9x squared y, minus 15xy. Okay. What are you going to do? GCF. What's the GCF? 3, definitely. Now, is there an x in every term?
Yes.
How many do you need to factor out? 1. Is there a y in every term?
Yes.
How many do you need to factor out? 1. So what's the GCF? 3xy. All right, times. All right. 3xy times what? 6x cubed y. 2x squared. 3xy times what is a negative 9x squared y? Negative 3x, okay? And then 3xy times what's a negative 15xy? Negative 5. All right, so that's where I'm at. Am I done? No. Remember, you still, in that parentheses, you still have that trinomial. So you want to go off to the side Now, I want to just say this. If you actually took out the correct GCF, then this GCF of this trinomial should now be what? 1. And it is. All right, so let's go to two binomials. This is the easy one because both 2 and 5 are prime. So what are the possibilities for 2x squared? 2x and x. What are the possibilities for 5? 1 and 5. All right. So, oh, and by the way, the last sign's negative. That means these signs are different. All right, let's put plus minus. If it doesn't work, we'll switch them like we did one of the previous problems. Okay? All right. Remember, trial and error. Let's put the 5 here, the 1 here. Okay? Am I done? No, you got to check this. You got to check the outer and the inner. What's the outer? What's the inner? What do I get when I combine those? I'm almost done. It's not what I want. I'm almost done. This is 3x. What do I want? All that tells me to do is what? Switch the signs. So this should be, instead, 2x minus 5 times x plus 1. And now, if you look at the outer and the inner, what's the outer this time? 2x. What's the inner this time? What do I get? Which is what you wanted. So this is my factorization for that. But what's my factorization for the original problem? 3xy times these two binomials times x plus 1. All right. Okay, number 7. All right, 7. Let's suppose we had 5x squared y plus 20x y squared plus 15y cubed. All right, you have to do the GCF first. What is it? 5y. 5y. So I'm going to factor out the 5y. And when I do that, what trinomial do I end up with? X squared. 5y times what's this? 4xy, good. 4xy, that's true. And then plus what? 3, right? Y squared. All right, so that's where I'm at. Am I done? No, so let's go to the trinomial now. That's inside the parentheses. I'm going to rewrite it. Now this part we talked about in the previous class. That's where we had the two variables. All right, so let's do the two binomials now. The f is easy. What times what's x squared? X and x. All right, let's go to the last. 3 is prime, so that's an easy one as well. But it's not just 3, it's 3y squared. So I got to have what here? 3y and y. Okay. The last sign's positive. That means these signs are the same. They're both positive. All right, and before you go on, you check. What's the outer? xy. What's the inner? 3xy. What do I get when I add them up? 4xy. And I forgot the y, didn't I? Right here. That's a y. And is that what I wanted? Yep. So that's correct. So what's my answer? 5y times plus 3y times x plus y. That's a y. Right. So that part, when we talked about that part right here last class period. And the worksheet on that is due Tuesday. And I forgot which one it was. I think it's part C. It's due Tuesday. All right, number 8. 2x squared minus xy minus 21y squared. All right, we have that one. Same two variables. What's the GCF? 1. Okay, good. So I'm going to go directly to the two binomials. And the first is easy because 2 is a prime number, so there's only one possibility for 2x squared. 2x and x. All right, now the last sign's negative, though. That means these signs have to be different. All right, so let's say plus or minus. Doesn't work, we'll change it. Now, I need a 21y squared, though. So what are the possibilities for 21? 127, 7 and 3, and that's about it. So what do you want to try? 7, 3? Okay. So let's go ahead and put the 7 here and the 3 here. That's what you're going to do for some of you. Trial and error. So my F and L are okay, but don't say that's your answer because you have not checked the outer and the inner of FOIL. What's the outer?
Negative 14x.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot the y. So remember, this is not just negative 21. It's what? Negative 21y squared. So y'all didn't tell me anything. What? That's right. You just did. So that should be a 3y. That should be a what? 7y. Good. And if you do what I just did, at some point you're going to realize, hey, I need a y here. Because what is this right here? Y squared. Okay, so let's do the outer. What is 2x times a negative 7y?
Negative 14x.
Okay, and let's do the inner. What's 3y times x? When I add them up, what do I get? Is that what I wanted? No. So that didn't work. So maybe switching the 3y and the 7y instead. Trial and error. All right, so let's try that. Let's try this one now. 2x plus 7y times x what? Minus 3y? All right, let's see if that works. All I did was switch the last terms. What's the outer this time?
Negative 6y.
Negative 6xy. What's the inner? What do I get when I add them up? Is that what I wanted? No. I wanted what? Negative. So that means, you see, xy and negative xy are opposites. That means all I got to do is what? Change the signs. So then this should then be, the answer should then be 2x minus 7y times x plus 3y. Now, again, before you go on, check. What's the outer this time? 6xy. What's the inner? And when you add them up, what do you get? Which is what you wanted right here. All right, so that was number 8. Number 9. Okay, number 9, let's suppose we had this 6x squared plus 22xy plus 20y squared. So 6x squared plus 22xy plus 20y squared. Always look for GCF. 2. So I get 2 times 3x squared plus 11xy plus 10y squared. All right. Am I done? No. Out of 10 points, you in this case you'd probably get 1. All right. So I go ahead and I figure out if I can factor this part here. Now remember, we said the GCF was 2, right? So that means that this trinomial, the GCF better be 1, and it is. All right, let's go to binomials. This one's not going to be that bad because 3 is prime and 10. There's only 2 possibilities, 1 and 10, 5 and 2. So No, you only have like 30 minutes left. Okay. All right. Okay, what are the possibilities for 3x squared?
3x and x.
All right. What are possibilities for 10y squared?
1 and 10.
110, 5 and 2. What do you want to try?
Which are y right?
Yeah, it'd be y. Yeah, remind me that time. What do you want to try though? 5 and 2. All right, so you're going to say, oh, and also the last sign's positive. So these have to be the same, and they're both going to be positive. So let's put 5y and what? 2y. If that doesn't work, we'll switch some things around. All right. So I have my 3x squared. I have my 10y squared because 5y times 2y is 10y squared. But I got to make sure I get my 11xy. That's your outer and inner. What's the outer? 6xy. What's the inner?
11.
Is that what I wanted? Yep. So that's I factored this part correct. So therefore my answer is 2 times x plus 2y. All right. 10. All right, in 10, let's suppose we have 4x to the fourth plus 2x cubed y minus 6x squared y squared. So 4x to the fourth plus 2x cubed y minus 6x squared y squared. All right, so the GCF is 2x squared. Okay, I agree. So let's factor it out. What's going to be inside the parentheses? Now remember, how many terms are in the original problem? 3. How many terms better be inside the parentheses? 3. What is it?
2x squared.
Good, because 2x squared times 2x squared is 4x to the fourth plus xy. Okay, good. 3y squared. All right. Are you done? Now you got to take that trinomial and see if you can factor that further. Now that's an easy one now because 2 and 3 are prime. All right, so let's go. And remember, we said the GCF is 2x squared, so that means this trinomial better have a GCF of 1, and it does. Okay, so 2x and x, right? The last sign's negative. So that means these signs are different. All right, let's say plus and minus. If it doesn't work, we'll fix it. What's the possibility of 3y squared? 3y and y, right? Okay, let's put the 3y first and the y next. And if it doesn't work, we'll move some things around. All right. Now, notice 2x times x is 2x squared, so I got that term. The positive 3y times a negative y is a negative 3y squared, so I have that term. But what I haven't checked yet? The outer and the inner, because I need that xy. What's the outer? Negative 2xy. What's the inner? And right away, I lucked out. And what do I get it? Yeah. So what's the answer?
2x squared. 2x
Plus 3y times x minus y. Okay.
minus y.
All right. And then finally 11. All right, in 11 you have this now. You have negative 6y squared minus 5y plus 4. Now we did one like this in a previous class. So remember, every problem we did, the first term, the coefficient was positive or negative? Positive. Here, my coefficient is negative. Students have issues factoring when the coefficient of the first term is negative. So one of the things on the worksheet they're going to tell you to do, now on your test, I'm not going to have one where the first coefficient is negative, but on my math lab they do, and on the worksheet they do. So what it's going to say is this, it's going to say factor out. Remember there was on one of the worksheets,
Plus 4.
Factor out a negative 4. What was that?
Plus 4.
Yeah, plus 4. Yeah. Factor out negative 1. That was in one of the worksheets. I think it was part C on 13.2.
Yeah.
All right, so you factor out negative 1. All right, let's do that. You're going to say negative 1 times what? Good. 6y squared plus, because a negative times a positive is a negative. And then what?
Minus 4.
Minus 4. Good. All right, now let's go off to the side, take this trinomial, and let's factor it. Okay. Now the GCF is 1, right? Okay. So let's look at F. What are the possibilities for 6y squared? 3y, 2y, 6y, 1y, right? What do you want to try? 3y and 2y? Okay. If that doesn't work, we'll try 6y and y instead. So 3y, 2y. All right, now let's talk about the last sign, the last term. The sign is negative. They have to be different, so let's say plus minus. Okay? But it's a negative 4, so what are the possibilities for 4? 4, okay, I'm going to write it down. Factors of 4. 1, 4, 2, and 2, and that's it. You know I cannot use 2 and 2. Right? Because this would be a 2 here, which means I could factor out a what? A 2, which meant that this would have a GCF of 2, and it doesn't. So I know I can't use this with 3y and 2y. You'll see that? We talked about that earlier today. So what do you want to try now?
4 and 1.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you this. Should I put the 4 here? No, for the same reason. You would have a GCF of 2. So I'm going to put the 4 here and the 1 there. Now let's check, though. So far, my F and L are fine, because what's 3y times 2y? 6y squared. What's a positive 4 and a negative 4? Negative 1 times a negative 1? Negative 4. So now I got to check the outer. What's the outer? Negative 3y. What's the inner?
8y.
And what do I get? I lucked out again. All right, but you saw the thought processes about the 2 and the 2? You know you couldn't use that. Okay? Now let's suppose you didn't see it. I'm hoping you do, because the more you have in your knowledge, the more you can do with it. But let's suppose you did not see that that 2 and 2 wouldn't work right away. All right, no big deal. You would have used them. So you would have said 3y plus 2 times 2y minus 2, right? That's what you'd have done. All right, let's check. What's the outer? Negative 6y. What's the inner? 4y. What do I get when I add them up? And then that's not what I wanted. So you may say, well, I'm going to switch them. Well, switching them is not going to help, because it's still 2's. So at that point, you realize that this wouldn't work, and you go and resort to 1 and 4. Okay? All right. Now, what's the answer, though? Negative 1 times 3y plus 4 times 2y minus 1. All right, that's the answer. Okay? All right, so let me go ahead and give you the worksheet that go with that.